Happy Sunday, everybody. Let's talk about college basketball from yesterday. We had Wisconsin beating Michigan in Ann Arbor. I mean, the biggest single win of the season, right up there with our Iowa State over Purdue upset in November. Arizona took care of business. Iowa State played with their food a little bit before pulling away from Oklahoma State. And then UConn beat DePaul. Those are your one seeds that coming into the day. I think that you'll see Michigan probably show up in a couple projections a little bit lower. I will still have them as a one seed, but they're going to fall back a little bit, probably at a third or fourth overall. Purdue took care of Penn State. Even though Penn State looked good, they're continuing to challenge these top teams. Duke took care of business against SMU, ended up winning by 7. Houston absolutely boat raced Baylor, ended up winning by 22. The game was never close. Turns out bringing an NBA player onto the roster doesn't help. BYU took care of Utah in a close game at the Marriott Center. Nebraska goes into Indiana, gets down by 17, comes back and wins. I don't think I can overstate just how good this Nebraska team is and how gritty they are. 16-0. Again, fighting back from a deficit. They've won at Ohio State, at Indiana. I mean, winning at Assembly Hall is massive. So look for this Nebraska team to start popping up into some one-seed conversations. They're probably going to be my top 2 seed, maybe jumping Duke tomorrow morning. Vanderbilt took care of business against LSU, won by 11. Alabama fell to Texas. A horrible week for the Tide, who lost to Vanderbilt in Nashville, and then now Texas at home. Sorry for my dog in the background. Texas Tech, despite giving up a huge lead from halftime, ended up winning by 2. They held on to win in the end against Colorado. Auburn, in another surprise result, Auburn beat Arkansas 95-73. Just absolutely massive ramifications there. North Carolina took care of Wake Forest. They ended up winning by 3. Kind of an ugly rivalry game, kind of like you'd expect. Moving on to Georgia. Georgia beat South Carolina by 5. Georgia remains in that single-digit seed area, just kind of like treading water at this point. Louisville, without Ryan Conwell, without Michael Brown, used a slow first half, ended up losing the first half 34-30, but then came out of the second half. Defense ratcheted up. They started scoring the ball a little bit better. Their bigs took care of business, and they won by 13. Florida just absolutely dominated Tennessee. Nate Emmett, while he's good, he's not Cam Boozer or AJ DeBansa or any of those guys. The guy's good, but he ended up playing well today, but nobody else really supported. Florida won 91-67. Florida looks to be putting it together at the right time. West Virginia beat Kansas at West Virginia. Morgantown, Hunter Huff had 17 points in the second half. Just absolutely huge game from the Mountaineers, who now suddenly look like they might be in the bubble picture a little bit. Virginia took care of Stanford by 15. This Cavalier team is very good. The European guys and the model that Odom has brought with him is awesome. Stanford probably out of the tournament right now, but very close for the moment. And Virginia very much so a single-digit seed. Some mid-major action to keep an eye on. George Mason beat VCU to get to 16-1. They're 4-0 in the A-10, and suddenly George Mason's starting to make some noise. Still has a little bit of ways to go, but absolutely a tournament type of team. Likely will need to beat St. Louis at one point. Miami beat Georgia Tech by 10. NC State dropped 113 at Florida State on Saturday. McNeil had 21. NC State had 19 threes. Just an absurd night from them. Moving along, there was a ton of mid-major action. Coastal Carolina beating App State. Lehigh beating Colgate by 1. Dartmouth ended up beating Cornell. Dartmouth will likely show up in my bracket tomorrow. It'll be a fun time. I think the first time I've ever done that. And then High Point and Charleston Southern had an overtime game. High Point ended up winning by 2. St. John's beat Creighton at Creighton by 17. Really big result for St. John's, who I featured on a Panic Meter video last week, but just really needed this week to kind of stabilize themselves. Syracuse beat Pittsburgh by 11. Again, Pitt's not great, but a road win by double digits in conference play is always good. Syracuse still pretty far out at this moment. In a really fun game, Xavier ended up beating Providence by 13. 13. Math is hard on Sunday mornings. Xavier put up 97. Just absolutely really fun game to watch. Malik Messina-Moore and Jovan Milicevic both had 20 plus. Providence, it might be time to start looking for coaches. Moving along again, some of these windows yesterday just had absolutely loaded mid-major slates. I'm not going through all of those, trying to stay to tournament implications. Nova beat Marquette 76-73 in a really close game that Nova couldn't afford to lose. Arizona State and Kansas State played a game. Arizona won by 3, just not necessarily the biggest game to write home about from an at-large perspective. New Mexico beat Air Force by 50, 91-49. Really impressive game, and that is 40 points, not 50 points. Moving ahead here, Texas A&M continues their scorching start. Now 3-0 in the SEC after beating Oklahoma. A&M is going to start showing up in the bubble picture. Murray State now 11 games in a row. They beat Valparaiso at home. St. Louis took care of LaSalle on the road. Virginia Tech fought off a stingy California team yesterday. Ended up winning by 3 in a really impressive performance from the Hokies, who suddenly look like they're in the tournament and probably on the 9 or 10 line. Continuing to move ahead here, again, a ton of mid-major games. I would recommend you all are following all of those. But to keep this closer to our at-large picture, Clemson beat Notre Dame 76-61. Clemson suddenly looks like they're in a really good spot for a tournament bid. Missouri, after all the good work they did in Lexington on Tuesday, followed that up by losing to Ole Miss by 7, just kind of unwinding some of that progress and moving them back a little bit. Seton Hall goes into Georgetown, beats Georgetown. The Pirates remain a 8 or a 9 seed right now. UCLA took care of Maryland. I'm really interested to see what Cronin's thoughts are about the road trip and the schedules. We'll be asking him about that on Saturday next weekend when he's in Ohio State. Kentucky beat Mississippi State. Again, Mississippi State had been hot. Kentucky had not been hot and really just needed this win to kind of stabilize themselves. Lowe got hurt again, so more to come, but Colin Chandler stepped up in a big way for the Cats. Utah State beat Boise State 93-68 at Extra Mile Arena in Boise. Just absolutely crazy to see the Utah State fans take over and everything that kind of went on with all of the drama with free tickets and stuff. Really impressive performance overall from Utah State, though, who does profile probably about a 6 or 7 seed. And to wrap up the night, about 2 a.m. Eastern, Hawaii hit a buzzer beater from the top of the key to beat UC Irvine 67-66 in a really fun game. Guys, that's it. Sorry, this is a little bit long, but there was a ton of action yesterday. Hopefully this is better than trying to read an article. Thanks, guys.